Swigert. Craig is the chair of the board for the Business Force, which is the political action arm of the Orlando Economic Partnership. Together, we are honored by your presence, and it is our hope that each of you will hear from the candidates directly their policy solutions to the economic and community issues that are most important to House District 44 and the entire Central Florida region. Each of these Republican candidates have qualified to run in a special election to fill a Florida House seat that was vacated by the appointment of Appeal Court Judge Eric Eisnagel. The special primary election to fill this vacated seat is on August 15th. And now, will you all please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Be seated. And it's my distinct honor to introduce the current chair of the Business Force, Craig Swigert, to lead us in introducing our elected officials and to kick off this very exciting debate. Craig.
All right. Thank you, Nancy. Welcome, everyone. And as custom with us tonight, we have many elected officials and special guests. So if we could, when I call your name, if you could please stand to be recognized. With us tonight, we have Ninth Circuit Judge Patricia Strobridge. There we go. Thank you, Judge. We also have Orange County Commissioner District 3, Mr. Commissioner Pete Clark. There he is. Hello, sir. We also have important Seminole County Supervisor of Elections, Mr. Michael Ertel. Where's Michael? There you go. Thank you. And from the great town of Windermere, Mayor Gary Brune. We also have Orange County Commissioner District 2, Brian Nelson. Where's Brian? There we are. Commissioner, thank you. We also have Commissioner of the great town of Oakland with us, Joseph McMullen, also known as HAP. We also have Orange County Commissioner of District 5, Commissioner Emily Bonilla. Is she here? She had to, yeah, Commissioner. Thank you. And last but not least, the wonderful new commissioner doing a great job down in Osceola County, District 1, Ms. Peggy Chowdhury. Commissioner Chowdhury. Is she here? She may have had to leave. Osceola County is a good ways away. So, where's Phil? Oh, sir, Phil. Yeah, our new comptroller, Mr. Phil Diamond. Good to see you, sir. Did I miss anyone else? Oh, school board member, Pam Gould. Yes. And school board business. Yeah, you didn't sign up, Nancy. So yeah, right. Yeah, I got it. We got it. Yes. So good. Anybody else? All right. Good to go. We love you all. Thank you all for your service. So also tonight we have 3 special moderators for this debate, including our own Robert Agrusa, who is the Executive Director of Business Force and also a Tiger Bay Club board member. We also have with us tonight Paul Owens, a 25-year well-respected media veteran and current opinions editor at the Orlando Sentinel. And also Ryan Elijah, news anchor for Fox 35 WOFL, and a host of several previous political debates in our community. Please join me in giving them a warm round of applause for agreeing to moderate the debate. Thank you all. So with that, I'm going to introduce our candidates, and what I'd like to do is introduce them all, and then afterwards, I will have them come up and we can applaud them all at once. So please join me tonight in thanking them for coming and thanking them for, putting their name in to serve our community. So join me in welcoming Dr. Yusha Jain, John Newstreet, Bobby Oshesky, and Bruno Portiagli. So Come on up, and thank you so much.
Good evening, and welcome to the special election candidate debate for Florida House District 44. As a reminder, this debate is being recorded live on Facebook at Fox 35 News. So we ask that you please be respectful to each of the candidates and to the audience, and please refrain from applause until a response is completed by each of the candidates. Now that the candidates have agreed upon the rules, it is a time to begin. It was determined via coin toss that Bruno Portigliatti will be the first with his opening statement. Each of the candidates have 1 minute. You may begin.
Good evening. How's it going? I'm Bruno Portigliatti. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much, Tiger Bay Business Force, for putting together this debate. Thank you to all of you as well, and those of you watching us online for being with us and listening to us. I have lived in District 44 for a long time. I attended Southwest Middle School, Dr. Phillips High School, went on to USF, where I double majored in political science and Spanish, went on to law school, and then came back home to help manage the family businesses, and then I concluded an MBA as well at that time. This is my very first time running for office. I believe that we desperately need a fresh face in office, someone who has true hands-on business experience, and above all else, someone who has the character and someone who has the right intentions to be in office. I have always had a passion to serve, a passion for people. I've served in several civic organizations, professional organizations throughout Central Florida for a long time. And I saw this as an opportunity for me to continue to do what I love, what I know to do, but at a higher level, thereby impacting a much greater number of people. Thank you so much for the opportunity to be here.
Thank you, Mr. Dr. Portigliatti. John Newstreet, you have 1 minute.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you again for coming tonight. I am John Newstreet. I am the CEO of the Kissimmee-Osceola County Chamber of Commerce, and so I'm a nonprofit executive, and I have dedicated my professional life to service. And that started growing up in a family of 10 children, where we were also a foster family through my high school years, continued through my service in the United States Coast Guard, and continues to this day as I serve my community in nonprofit work. In addition to being a veteran, I've also worked in the process. I've worked for 5 elected officials at the federal and local level. So I understand the process. I'm not a politician. I'm a first-time candidate. I'm a UCF graduate, very proud Knight. And I can honestly say if I get to Tallahassee, I'm there with unselfish and purposes to serve my community and to make it better without cause. So thank you, and let's make a difference in Tallahassee, right?
Thank you very much, John. Next is Bobby Olszewski. You have 1 minute.
Thank you all so much for being here tonight. It's an honor to be with you. Thank you to Tiger Bay and Business Force for hosting this debate and event. And thank you to all the viewers watching tonight on Fox 35 and OrlandoSentinel.com. I'm Bobby Olszewski, and with the last name like Olszewski, you can see why everyone calls me Bobby O. I have lived in this community since 1980. Grew up in the Dr. Phillips and Windermere area. Had the honor of serving the city of Winter Garden as a commissioner, being elected twice. I've been a registered voter since the 1990s in District 44. I've owned my home since 2003. And I am running only to serve the community that I love. And my wife Alice and I are raising our 10-month-old daughter Reagan there. And that's what it's about. It's about providing opportunities for all citizens to be the best they can be, having businesses thrive, having our communities thrive, having our families thrive. And I think that's the most important thing to look at when you're looking at who's going to be your next state representative in District 44. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Bobby. And last is Dr. Usha Jain. You have 1 minute.
Good evening. I'm Dr. Usha Jain. It is indeed an honor to be here. As you can see, I'm Indian. I'm a legal immigrant. And I'm about health and happiness. And that's the reason I'm running this campaign. I'm running without a contribution. I'm doing it for a purpose to make a difference. And I promise you that if I can serve the community 7 days a week for medical emergencies, I promise you I can take care of this with a common sense and a business mind. Also, I've been in the area of District 44 for 37 years. This is my country. I was married to America, and I promise you that we always do things for our family. Maternal was India. I love my India, but I'm married to America. And I would get it very much. I will feel very honored if you can support me from heart and not with the money. Thank you very much.
Candidates, thank you. At this point, we're going to move into the general questions. Bruno, we'll start with you, and we'll just work our way down. And on these, you'll have 1 minute to respond. Okay. And the first question is, each of you certainly has a unique professional and educational background. So in what ways does that background help you to serve in the state legislature? And then how does your background affect your political decision-making?
Sure. As I said, I think we need business-minded folks in Tallahassee. And that's what I think distinguishes me the most from the other candidates. We can talk about issues, we can talk about, key points that we understand that we need to do to stimulate the economy, to create job growth. But until you actually do it, until you have run businesses, until you have created a business, you have maintained a business, you have created jobs, made payroll, you have ensured that you can make budget, you don't really understand it. And that's what I do. I run a Christian college, Florida Christian University. I'm the executive vice president of FCU. I'm also the CEO of several communities of senior living communities, Excellence Assisted Living Facility. And that is what I have done for a long time. That's what I know to do. And I believe that my business experience paired with my educational experience, but also, most importantly, my character is what qualifies me to be in this position and to serve our community. We need people that are connected to the district, people that will be elected by the district, but also come back and serve those who have elected them to serve in Tallahassee.
Well, I am a graduate of the University of Central Florida. I have 2 master's degrees in business disciplines from Rollins College and Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University, as well as a PhD in business administration. I've taught as an adjunct college professor for numerous universities, including currently at Boston University Online in their MBA program. I have served in business capacities for a number of organizations. I've been the president of Florida Laboratories, a dental lab for 67 employees under my care with an $8 million budget, have served as executive vice president for Arabian Nights, and have worked in the sports and entertainment communities in this community in District 44 throughout my entire career. And I think that's what separates me from everyone else, is I have a unique understanding of what our community is all about, what makes it tick. And I have the business experience, I have the academic experience, and I've had the honor of already having to make a vote under circumstances and stressful circumstances, working across the aisle, working with all people, constituents, as well as other elected officials to get things done for our community.
I started in the private sector right out of school with a degree in finance from UCF and found that to be less than fulfilling. And so I got into the nonprofit sector and was the state director of the American Legion, where I ran a $1 million plus budget and had 10 staff, oversaw 135,000 member veterans, and oversaw general oversight on over 300 posts around the state of Florida. So I know this state, I know this area very well, and I know how to run a business because I've signed the front check for 10 employees for better part of over 10 years. Beyond that, I've entered the political process as a staffer, and so I have a better understanding of the machinations that make up the federal and the local level. I understand the needs of this region, working at the federal level for where we're heading and what's needed to get there. And of course, I run $1 million+ budget again at the CEO of the Kissimmee Chamber, where I have 9 staff. And as Mark Wilson said, we are the nonprofit that exists so that you don't become one too.
All right. I have to tell you that I'm a lifelong learner. I have been a doctor. I have 3 medical specialties. Emergency medicine, I worked at ORMC. I did helicopters, everything ambulances. I did anti-aging now a few years ago. That spells into happiness. How is health and happiness is connected, and that's what I am about, and I advocate that. And this is my scope. I'm going beyond the scope of medicine to do this, and I have experienced some injustice, and I have defended many frivolous legal claims myself. And I proved in America that I live here. I don't live in third world. And I proved in the past, and I'll prove it again. It's all business. If I can do all this, I can do politics. I can promise you, I will do the politics with the heart and hard work. And if I can do 7 days a week, everything, I can do this. Thank you very much.
Now, candidates, whichever of you is elected, will in Tallahassee confront plenty of statewide issues and policies. But what I'm curious to hear about is what your top priority is for the district that you would represent, District 44. And let's start with Bobby, and then we'll move to your right and go that direction on the candidates on the podium.
Well, I think the most critical issue in our state is actually a microcosm of what our most critical issue is in District 44, and that's education. We have a unique situation here in District 44 to where we have outstanding public schools, but at the same time we have to have choice, because every child deserves an opportunity to learn at their own unique capabilities and in their own unique environment. So I think being able to have education to where everyone is on the same playing field, whether that's public school, private school, charter school, homeschool, and I think that's what we need to do, is spell out what the standards are, because at the same time there's nothing more important than providing education for a growing community, particularly with ours that has so many vital business interests. And I think at the same time when we talk about education, we talk about investing in the jobs of tomorrow. And we invest on that by looking at STEM education, making sure we're looking at our vocational training, that our students are graduating with skills and actual job-ready skills to prepare us for in our economy for the next generation.
For me, it's smart growth. What's happening in Southwest Orange County is the story of growth. If you look at Horizon West, if you look at the addition of residential properties and tourist properties, it's contributed to traffic, it's contributed to growth. And so my aim would be to bring the stakeholders together, as I've done in the past, to figure out exactly what's best for our quality of life in Southwest Orange. We need these visitors, we need the tourist economy. It's important to not just Southwest Orange, but all of Orange County, all of Florida. So if we've got to deal with that, how do we make sure it's still a great place to live? I've lived in Orange Tree and Dr. Phillips since 2008. I fight that traffic. I used to live in Summerport when there were 6 houses there. That's not the story anymore. And so it's getting tough, and we've got to look ahead. We've got to find solutions, and we've got to work together. We've got to do it smartly.
Hey, Dr. Jane.
All right. My issue, I think everything comes from the root of the problem. If you fix the roots are good, tree is going to be good. So health and happiness comes from having a justice for the citizens, having a right thing for the citizens, education and safety. Safety is very important. And it is important because we are scared. We live in Bay Hill, we live in Isleworth, but we get broken in. Why? Because we need to make sure that root of the problem is taken care of. So if I can do a good business myself and do hard work, I think all the problems is connected to the root of the problem. If you fix the root, then we will be health and happiness in the community. And my goal is to get health and happiness in the community by safety, education, and having a health and having a health in the community. Thank you.
I believe, first and foremost, we have to always work to have a strong and thriving economy. For us to do that, we have to cut unnecessary regulations. We have to have a sensible tax, climate in our state to bring businesses to our state, to allow businesses to be for businesses to be able to grow as well and employ more people, and therefore create more jobs, obviously, and stimulate the economy. And also ensure that we have the necessary workforce. That's what we need to do so that we have a strong and thriving economy. Secondly, I think education is also one of the most important issues, and it's also something that I'm very familiar with because that's what I do, one of the things that I do. When it comes to education, we have to, for us to be nationally and globally competitive. We have to reward high-performing students. We have to reward high-performing teachers as well by incentivizing them in any way that we can so that we can attract the right people to come to Florida to stay here so that we can educate our kids. We have a skills gap problem as well, where we have approximately 500,000 people unemployed in Florida with 250,000 jobs available looking for the right person for the job, and we can't find them. In the next 30 years, we're going to have a disruption in our economy, in our system, where things are going to be changing because of the technology, and we're not ready for that. We need to prepare for that. We need to prepare our kids so that they're ready for that as well. Wow, it's a very short time. I want to say so much.
Now, I know many of you have watched this past legislative session. Obviously, you're going to be coming into a second session this springtime that would be beginning in January. Can each of you please tell us one thing that the legislature got right this past legislative session, and maybe one thing that they got wrong?
And we'll start with John Eustace.
Well, can I have a minute to prepare? I would say, I think on wrong, I think there's a better way. I would have a different way to handle the process. So if you look at education, again, it was kind of, it wasn't inclusive. And so while there were problems that needed to be addressed, and there's a lot of good in some of that bill, there were things that maybe should have been vetted a little further and worked on. And so, I think there's more work to be done on education in the future. There always will be, to be quite frank. One thing that they got right, again, with education, you've got record funding there. You've got, well, let me check that. I think even better than that is the fact that in the end, although it was ugly, we got tourism marketing right. It was fully funded at the governor's request. We've seen the return on that investment. It's crucial. It's very important. And so in the end, it was ugly to get there, but it was done right.
Dr. Jane?
I have similar views as Mr. Newstreet. The legislation, you never can satisfy everybody. So there are things which happen which are good, and there are things which you want to get it better. And as he said, the funding for the tourists is good. This is a area where tourism, we get a lot of tax and money from the tourism, and we thrive on that. But if we take that away, then we will end up paying all the taxes. Also, the tax write-off and all that needs to be given to the people who are doing the high-skill job, they're employing people. So tax write-off should be given to the people. Also, the school funding should be always there. So there are things which you could improve a little bit, but it's overall it was okay.
Mr. Portagliani?
I'm going to address it very succinctly. We have some of the positive things. The increase in homestead exemption. Can you guys hear me? Increase in homestead exemption, that was very positive. The cap on non-homestead exemption, homestead taxes. Enterprise Florida ultimately being approved at the very last minute. Visit Florida as well. And something that we did not do wrong, I agree with John Newstreet, it's just the process, the way in which a lot of things were handled. I think we have a lot of people that are disconnected from the people who elected them. And that's, again, one of the main reasons why I'm running, because people are elected by the people in the district, and they forget who elected them, and they forget how they wished for them to vote. That was a big issue in this process, in this legislative process this past year, or this year.
Well, there's no question, when you look at things that we could get better, I think House leadership will agree that we need to make sure we're engaging all the constituents, all the interested stakeholders in the process when it comes to education. And I think that's the biggest thing that I took out of the session where we can improve is making sure that we have the same standards for everyone, so a high tide can raise all boats, and that boats our students and their future and their education. So I think communicating and setting the standards for all the entities. Where we got it right is I don't think we've ever seen in our state. We've had the transparency when it comes to making sure there's a return on investment of our tax dollars. And I think that's important, that government should run like a business. And I know as someone who's run a business, who is PhD in business administration, understands that. And there's no doubt that the taxpayers of Florida are getting a better return on the investment with the transparency, with the contracts, and all of our tax dollars that are going in to Visit Florida and Enterprise Florida is more out in the open.
All right, thank you. Our next question is probably our longest and important topic, and John touched a little bit on this a second ago. Back on June 15th, of course, Governor Scott passing House Bill 7069. It is a nearly 300-page document that tackles a number of education issues, including creating schools of hope, aiming to lure those charter schools into areas where public schools are not performing well. And after that passed, of course, Broward County was one of the counties that has filed now a lawsuit challenging the new state law. They believe it gives charter schools a leg up and makes it more difficult on traditional public schools with regulations and extra taxpayer dollars going to those charter schools. So the question tonight is, do you agree with the critics or those that feel House Bill 7069 was the right? And let's start with Dr. Jane Owens.
You got a hard one for me. I cannot switch. But I do support charter school, and I am not into legislation, as you all know. So I haven't studied, and I haven't known the legislation, but I know about the charter school, and I'm in support of the charter school. I'm in support of the public funding. Public schools are great, and then we cannot take the money from the public schools. So I'm answering you, maybe not 100% directly, but what I know about these schools, I can answer that. And the private schools are important, and everybody should have a choice where they want to go. Thank you.
Yeah, we're switching it up. I don't know that I agree with either, if that makes sense, because I know what they were trying to accomplish, and again, there was some good in it and there was some bad in it. When the governor came to town and signed that bill, the Speaker of the House was there and referenced a Pulitzer Prize-winning article by the Tampa Bay Times called Failure Factories. And that's what they were driving at, was fixing the problem we see in Pinellas County, we've seen in other school districts. And so ultimately there was good in that legislation. But again, we're going to learn about what maybe wasn't so good and what we have to fix when we get up there. And so I'd like to say we could focus on the good and move forward, but that's not how the political process works. You usually focus on the bad and you try to fix it. So for me, I reference the failure factories because it comes down to choice. The parents in South Pinellas had no options. And that's what charter schools often provide, and that's what this bill was to get the parents engaged and to give them a choice for their student to learn and be successful in their life.
From firsthand experience, my wife as an Orange County public school teacher was the writing and reading coach at the lowest performing school in Orange County. And they went from an F to an A in 1 year. So I can see, thank you, Nancy Robinson, the school board member. So I can see firsthand what happens when you invest the right educational resources, even in the most challenging circumstances. And there's no doubt that it's all about our children and having choice. And I've represented the economically distressed community in Winter Garden. I've served as the Orange County Community Action Board Chairman, working with all distressed communities here in Orange County, and education and having access to quality education is critical. And the bill this year, once again, it's we don't like how the sausage is made sometimes, but at the same time, the intent was there to provide families in the most economically struggling communities a chance to better their self, to better their families, and fight for their children. And that's what I think we all need to do, is looking for the best educational opportunities for our kids in the future.
I believe the overarching question here is whether we believe in school choice or not, and I do. I've made that very clear throughout the campaign. I believe that a parent and a child, they're the best ones to decide where they should study. And I personally have something personal to this as well, which is my sister-in-law. She works at a Title I school, so I hear from her what she goes through. And what I have seen is that the responsibility has shifted from the parents a lot to the teachers. We are placing so much burden on the teachers and just over-testing our students to the point of exhaustion. And that's not okay. That needs to be changed. So, yes, there were some good, but also some bad to the legislation. But overall, I think if something is not working, if we had tried to remedy the situation for many years and we have not been able to, then we have to inject more money. We have to do whatever needs to be done to be able to fix it. And that's what they did. So I think it was a positive thing. And I think it'll really benefit those schools that needed the help that they were not getting for their students.
Okay, next question is a little shorter than the previous question. And Bruno, you went last on the question that we just concluded, so I'll ask you to go first. And it's simply that Speaker Corcoran has advocated term limits for Supreme Court and Appeals Court judges in Florida and may bring that up again next year. If you're in the House, will you support him or oppose him in that?
I think term limits are important, but for judges, that's something that needs to be looked at very carefully, because if judges don't have term limits, if they don't have to worry about if they have term limits and they have to worry about their next job, where they're going next, then that causes them to have to pander to certain people and perhaps not be as objective as they would be otherwise. So I think when it comes to judges, we have to really take a closer look at that than when we're referring to different elected officials.
There's no question that Speaker Corcoran is well intended when he looks to have term limits for elected officials. That's something that I can support. But again, when you come to judges, it's a very unique situation. And having the judges being able to make rulings on the merits of cases without having to worry about election campaigns and fundraising, I think is a critically important part of our justice system. And so at the same time as term limits are vitally important to keep politicians in check, to make sure that the people are always represented, I do think we need a little more information and take a longer look and a deeper breath when it comes to term limiting our judges.
Yes, sir. So I would lead in with saying that like public service, an elected office of the legislature, so our judges are often elected. And so it is public service, and that's where it must focus. I would say it is special category. It is very difficult for them to tell their story and get connected in the community. As a local chamber executive, they come through my office to introduce themselves because they can't do the things a traditional candidate can do. And so there are obstacles in front of them in that regard. But on top of that, it goes back to public service. So I don't know how Speaker Corcoran's approaching this issue. Conceptually, it's the balance between it is public service and not. And so I would probably err on saying yes to term limits, but definitely would want to research the topic more.
All right, this is my topic. I can tell you, the judges should be not elected. They should be appointed. How anybody would know that they're qualified just because they have boards and they have contributed so much money or they collected so much money? Anyway, this is where the corruption is coming from. Contribution to the judges by the attorneys, and guess what? The attorney who pays $1,000 for that contribution is the winner. He's going to cash $6,500, $8,500 in no time. And this is where the corruption is coming. If the judges are not biased, equal justice in the law. This is what needs to be in America, guys. So my thing is term limit 100%. But I want to go beyond that. And I want to go and say that judges should be appointed with the qualification, not with the people by just seeing the boards. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. The next question, this is the last question of this round. This question was submitted by the Business Force Board of Directors. What is your position on Medicaid hospital reimbursement cuts that the state's hospitals received this past legislative session? And what would you do to help mitigate future cuts to Central Florida's local health care systems, as many of them receive some of the most severe cuts in the state of Florida? And I'm going to start with Dr. Jain.
I really didn't understand the question. Sorry.
Can you repeat it?
Yes, please.
What is your position on the Medicaid hospital reimbursement cuts that the state's hospitals received this past legislative session? And what would you do to help mitigate future cuts to Central Florida's local healthcare systems, as many of them receive some of the most severe cuts in the state of Florida?
Actually, I'm a physician, as you know, and I am all into the health and the reimbursement. Hospitals, they get too much. They get everything for $5 stuff, they get $150. So if they got a little cut, I wouldn't mind. But the doctors who are the main root, and they need to be rewarded. They are the one who diagnose. They are the one who treats the patient. Hospital is just a medium, and I don't mind having a health cut for the Medicaid. Thank you.
John Newstreet.
I refer back to my service for Senators Martinez, Lemieux, and Rubio, where this was an issue then as it is now. And that's Medicare and Medicaid and how this all comes about. They're crazy formulas. It is a touchy subject. But ultimately what we need to focus on, the end goal, is improved outcomes and decreased costs. And I think the stats that I've been told about, that I have seen, show that Medicaid doesn't accomplish that end. And so I turn the table away from Medicaid, which is important, and so we've got to try to look at that. But let's look to the future with telemedicine and direct primary care and other options that could improve our outcomes and decrease costs and connect the patient with the doctor more directly.
Well, I've had the honor of working with Orlando Health and Florida Hospital, bringing a hospital to the city of Winter Garden. Orlando Health asked me to sign their certificate of need, a recommendation for their certificate of need, as did Florida Hospital for their expansions right here in District 44. And there is no doubt that when we look at healthcare in the future, it has to be about preventative medicine. And when we look at the preventative medicine, we need to be about health care, not treating sick care and treating symptoms. And the most important thing we can do is look at what we've done in the city of Winter Garden. Again, I mentioned I represented the most economically distressed part of the city. We had Shepherd's Hope, a nonprofit charity, come in. They're opening up a health clinic to help people stop going to the emergency room as their primary care physician. We have the West Orange Healthcare District in our community that's doing preventative health care measures, looking at the health care and wellness care rather than the treatment of symptoms and sick care. And I think it's important that we work with all entities, the insurance companies, the hospitals, the insurers, the providers, and the physicians to making sure that we're able to provide health care, lowering costs for our community here in District 44.
I believe the issue really stems from Obamacare, to be honest with all of you guys. We have 20,000 plus pages of legislation that simply has not worked. We have seen it. It's trickling down to the state. It's affecting every area of healthcare, and we see it in Medicaid as well. We, at our communities, at our assisted living facilities, senior living facilities, we accept Medicaid, and we have gone through the whole bureaucratic process of getting the approval first from the state and then getting the approval from the providers locally, which is not an easy thing to do. After you get the approval, then you only get up to $1,100 or up to $1,200 for each patient, if they meet the criteria, which are pretty extensive as well. So the whole system is flawed. We need to look at it. We need to fix it, but it stems from Obamacare. And until that's fixed, I don't think we're going to see the changes here locally, which are causing the change that you just mentioned as well.
Thank you. And now we are going to begin the portion of the program where we ask specific questions for each of the candidates. And as a reminder, you will each have 1 minute to respond to a question that's directed at you, with 30-second opportunities for other candidates to provide rebuttals. The first question is going to be directed to Dr. Jain. Last week, John Morgan filed a lawsuit against the Florida legislature and its decision to ban smokable forms of medical marijuana. This is a two-part question. Number one, do you agree with the House's position to ban smoking medical marijuana? And number two, would you support the recreational use of marijuana?
I'm very much against marijuana. And I agree with ban on marijuana. I do not want to support any recreational use of marijuana. This is the cause of the problem. John Morgan is looking for his interest. He can have more suits, so doctors can get more in trouble. And I tell you what, I want everybody to know, I got John Morgan & Morgan 3 weeks ago, He brought a frivolous claim against my hotel, and I fought myself, and I made him drop the claim. 8 months of struggle, frivolous, total frivolous. So John Morgan is looking for his interest. Doctors need to be smart. They don't need to do marijuana, and they don't need to do recreational use. This is what is the cause of the problem. Young kids are going to go into that. So this is our thing. We need to have a legislation which is going to help the people. We are for the citizens, and we cannot have the citizens go through this marijuana deal. I would not prescribe marijuana even if you gave me $1 million. Thank you.
Any of the other candidates? John Newstreet?
Sure. I would just say that it is going to be a lawsuit, but there's no other form of medicine that is smokable, and the challenge that presents is that it's not metered. It's difficult to measure the dosage, and so there are some challenges, and it was not written explicitly into the constitutional amendment, which was vetted by the Supreme Court before hitting the ballot. So I would stand absolutely in support of the legislature's ban.
Anyone else? Bobby Olszewski.
In the city of Winter Garden, one of the dispensaries of medical marijuana is Knox Nursery, located within Winter Garden and in District 44. And as a Winter Garden commissioner, we were, I think, the first city in the state of Florida to have a moratorium on this so we could take the time to study the issues. There's no doubt it's state law, and that state law is coming, but I think the most important thing is that we can learn from other states like Colorado and all the problems that they've been having there. And again, we just saw Las Vegas is now, I think of as the first, having marijuana and kind of a similar tourism community. And so we need to make sure that we're taking the steps to make sure we're vetting the process before we enact anything.
I would stand with the House's decision.
All right, this next question is for Bruno Portigliatti. According to your campaign website, you state, the government should only collect enough tax to meet the requirements for its core functions, which include law enforcement and public safety, public education, securing our borders, transportation, and infrastructure. The legislature spent a lot of time during this year's session debating funding for Enterprise Florida and Visit Florida. Would you consider these two state agencies an essential core function of government, and would you advocate for more or less funding for these state entities?
I don't believe it's a core function of government. I think that the core function of government are those that are listed on my website. I do, however, believe that since the implementation of Enterprise Florida and Visit Florida, we have seen tremendous growth in our economy, and we have reaped the benefits. We have seen how helpful it is, how good it has been for our economy, for tourism, for the hospitality industry. So I am 100% in favor of continuing those two programs. I know that the district overwhelmingly believes the same. They have been advocating for that, and even the expansion of the two programs. I believe we should maintain it.
Thank you. Any other candidates who would like to respond? Bobby.
There's no question that Florida needs to make sure that it maintains itself as the great place to do business and making sure we have a low tax environment. And we can't be afraid of the debate, and being able to vet our tax dollars and how they're being used and having that return on investment from Enterprise Florida and Visit Florida. Those investments are smart, but at the same time, we need to make sure that we're getting the return on the investment. And that one thing is something we can look forward to in the future, and making sure our tax dollars are well spent.
Any other candidates who'd like to respond? John Newstreet.
I'm the chamber guy with a regional footprint that is heavily influenced by the tourism industry, as all of this region knows. So absolutely, as far as a core function, that's debatable. I mean, you look at Maslow's hierarchy and some of the other elements that go into the thought processes of government services. It's very important to us, but is it a core government function if we were to supplant ourselves in somewhere that doesn't have tourism? Probably not. So, but here it is, and here I will absolutely advocate for as much as they need. I won't set that budget because I have a budget to set myself. But.
And Dr. Jane, would you like to make any comments?
No.
Okay. Thank you very much.
All right, the next question actually is for you, John. Recently, you know that you were endorsed by the Florida Chamber of Commerce, and one of their top legislative priorities was workers' comp reform that did not pass. With the Florida Supreme Court finding much of the current workers' compensation unconstitutional, premiums have now spiked about 14.5% this year. So if elected, what specific solutions would you offer to help businesses with workers' comp?
Specific solutions, it's politics. I think one of the folks up here talked earlier about sausage making, Bismarck's old quote. So I would say, listen, I sign the front of checks. I pay that. I've seen the increases. I've had employees affected by that and have to get care based on that. And it is hurtful to businesses. And so is there a solution to that that's specific? I don't know. We've got to curb it. I think it relates heavily to tort reform and curbing some of the things that, giving employers and employees, again, better say in their care and getting to a better solution. But ultimately, we have to get on top of this workman's comp thing because it was struck down in the courts. And so we've got to craft a solution based upon their feedback to find a solution that helps our businesses.
Thank you. Any responses?
I think the solution is clear. We need to reform our workers' compensation legislation. The issue now that we have is we have employees that get injured. They obviously leave the job. They continue to get paid for lost wages. They get paid for the medical bills. But the business owners have to foot the bill of attorneys, excessive, increases that we have been seeing for multiple years. So that obviously is not impacting the employee. What we have to do, obviously, is get the employee healthy and back to work right away. But after we do that, the business owners are still having to pay for all of these increases, and I have to stop. So thank you.
I want to say something about that, if that's okay. The workman's comp is a major issue. The people who are really injured, they need to be taken care of. But there is so much frivolous stuff goes on that you do not know. If you're a business owner, you would know. My husband was a business owner of the hotel, and he knows. And if John Morgan and Morgan gets punished for what he does wrong, then we will breathe fine. Trust me. Trust me, he needs to be punished.
You're going to have to get John Morgan a 30-second rebuttal at the end.
Okay, this next question is for Bobby Olszewski. Yeah, as a Winter Garden City Commissioner, you opposed all tax increases. And according to your campaign website, you are a, quote, business owner leading the Emerson Management and Consulting Group, which specializes in economic development. So this is a two-part question based on those two facts. Number one is, will you continue to oppose all tax increases as a state representative? And the second part of the question is, what specific plans or proposals do you have to encourage economic diversification and job creation in your district?
I will definitely oppose tax increases. Just like all of us sitting around our own kitchen tables with our families, we have to do more with less, and the government can always do more with less. And so I think that's a good principle to move upon, is making sure that the government uses our tax dollars wisely and doesn't increase our taxes. From specific policies on economic development, I think take a look at what we've done in the city of Winter Garden. And, we work collectively with our outstanding mayor, our city staff, and fellow commissioners, and we've been able to take basically a distressed community and turn it into a gem of District 44 and an envy of not only the area, but for the state and sometimes the nation. And we've done that by having policies that help all businesses equally. And I think when you look at economic development, you look at economic development that benefits everyone. So all high tides can raise all boats, not picking the individual winners and losers. And I think the state of Florida, we need to do the exact same thing, as working together across the aisle, making sure that our economic development policies are helping everyone thrive, not just selected few.
Any other candidates want to address those two issues, tax increases and economic development policies?
Okay. With that, we'll move to the next question. It is for Bruno Pertigliati as well. According to your website, we went back to the website, a number of occupations you list, including realtor with Ameriteam Realty. So as you know, there is a shortage of affordable housing, not just in Florida, but certainly the city of Orlando as well. So what steps would you take to kind of close the gap between the wages and where the workers being able to buy a home would be?
Actually, we had a big win in this past session with affordable housing because a lot more money was given to affordable housing. So that was big, and we need to continue to do that. We need to work. We have an incredible organization here, the Commission on Homelessness, that has been working to assist homeless to obtain housing. That's something that we need to do. It's impressive the number of homeless that we have in Central Florida, and that's something that we have to look at. We have to pay more attention to, and divert funding if we need to solve the issue because it's right. It's near to us. It's right next to our house, and we have to improve that. We have to give them housing, whatever needs to be done, so that we can get these people out of the streets, back into their normal lives. And whatever we can do to reprioritize our budget to allocate more money for affordable housing so that we can provide that, we will do. I'm not for increasing taxes. Again, reprioritizing our budget, looking at different ways in which we can save, take from here, and allocate for that.
Any responses?
Yes, if I may, I'm proud to have gotten the endorsement of the Florida Realtors and the Orlando Regional, Orlando Regional Realtors, and one of the things we talked about was the rating of the Sadowski Fund, which is a dedicated trust fund at the state level to affordable housing. They did it again this year. And so we've got to really dedicate ourselves to affordable housing. And I think part of it comes with the Sadowski Fund being not touched in the future.
All right. And now we're going to move on to a question for John Newstreet. This question was submitted from the Tiger Bay Board of Directors. You lead the operations of a chamber of commerce that is operating in one of the fastest growing Hispanic markets in the nation, with the majority of them being American citizens. Can you give us a few examples of initiatives that you have personally implemented that will ensure support and success for these small businesses and entrepreneurs, which represent such an important segment of the Central Florida community?
So personally implemented, no, because I've inherited things that work, so I don't need to reinvent the wheel. In the Chamber building, we have a five-day presence of the Small Business Development Center, funded by the county and the city, that is open to Hispanics and non-Hispanics. But in addition, at least one day a week, we do have a presence from the Hispanic Business Initiative Fund, which is very similar. So they help entrepreneurs set a business plan. They help, if desired, to find demographic research. They help with marketing needs, all free of charge because the government helps subsidize that. So it works. They fill my lobby and my boardroom at least once to twice a week often. And so I don't know how I could build on that because if anything, I want to continue to promote that. We've examined possibilities of trying to expand the HBIF to at least a second day. And we've got to continue that conversation. But it is important, and we want to make all businesses successful, and we do have some things that cater to those specific markets.
Any other candidates want to respond?
Sure. Can I?
Yes.
We need to continue to be an inclusive society. We have done a good job, but we can always improve. I have the privilege of serving on the certification board at the City of Orlando, which is a board that certifies minority-owned businesses, minority and women-owned businesses, so that they can have the certification and they can be at a level playing field with a lot of bigger companies and have the opportunities that they wouldn't have otherwise. So I have seen month to month, hundreds of organizations that come before us seeking assistance, seeking our help. And we have been able to help these companies, and that's what we need to continue to do.
Yeah. Bobby?
I think it's important to focus on our own community here in District 44 because, other counties and other regions have their own problems, but I'm focused on what's important to my constituents and the people that live in District 44. And that's about providing a level playing field for all people, no matter what your nationality, what your background is. We come here to America, to the greatest country in the world, and we need to do everything we can to benefit everyone, not just a select few. And I know I will be working tirelessly and exclusively to benefit our community here in House District 44.
And Dr. Kane, do you have any comments?
Yes, everybody in the community, especially my community, District 44, should be all treated equally, no matter whether you're a big company or small company, or you're a worker, or you're a minimum wage earner. And it is very important everybody gets treated with respect and that's what I'm about. Thank you.
Thank you, Bobby. You're on the receiving end of this one. Recently, Governor Scott vetoed a bill that would have permanently expanded Florida's Bright Futures, a scholarship program to cover tuition and fees for top-performing students, because it also, as you know, included a cuts in funding for state colleges, so the increase is now scheduled to expire after 1 year. So the question is, if elected as someone who has learned the value of an education, obtained a PhD as well, and as you said, you're an adjunct professor, would you vote to make this increase permanent?
I think you need to have that increase permanent, because I know when I graduated from Dr. Phillips High School that I received, it was then called Gold Seal, and now it's called Bright Futures. So I was a recipient of that, and I think we need to make sure that we're investing in our education. And there's no doubt that our students in District 44 deserve the best opportunity they can. And yes, we do have some affluence in District 44, but at the same time, I know a lot of families and communities that struggle. So we need to make sure that we're investing in everyone's future. A high tide raises all boats, and I know I've said that multiple times, but that's where the focus needs to be. And having educational opportunities in a variety of industries, whether it's here at Orange Technical College for vocational training, or going right here to my alma mater, the University of Central Florida or Valencia College, we need to make sure that we're investing in our future, and we need to make those permanent, because that sends a signal throughout the whole state that we value education, we value our community, and we value the jobs of tomorrow by getting our children that education today.
Anyone else like to respond to that?
Yes, I want to say something about the education. Education is very important. Hard work and education is the goal. And this is the root of the country. Our kids are the roots. My daughter went to public school, Dr. Phillips High School, and she's a well-known dermatologist now because she worked really hard. And hard work and education is the base of everything, and treated fairly is another one. So education is very important, and I would do anything to increase the funding for education. Thank you.
I believe education is, obviously a great equalizer, and I too benefited from Bright Futures. I owe a debt of gratitude to the state for having that program. I believe we have to continue to expand the program. We have to continue to fund it, do whatever it needs, whatever we need to do to continue to fund it, because there are a lot of people out there that do not have the means to go to college. And not everyone is meant to go to college. Not everyone wants to go to college. But vocational school, whatever it is, whatever training they want to pursue, we have to be able to help them so that we have the right workforce when the time comes.
All right, and now we are on our final question, and this question is for Dr. Jain. Do you agree with the legislature's decision to expand the Gardner Scholarships, which provides funds to children with significant disabilities, and now allows these scholarships to be used at private and religious schools for tuition?
Yes, I do.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's critically important that we have that. I know my good friend, former Senate President Andy Gardner, fought tirelessly for this issue, and at the same time, it's up for the government to step in sometimes for when conditions of merit, and this would be the conditions that merit, because like I said, every child is unique and deserves to have an education that fits their unique circumstances and educational requirements, and being able to have special needs investments and being able to use that money from the state to get the specialized care and education that they need is critical for a thriving society in the future.
Responses?
So I'd just like to add that location and income should never be an issue, should never be a factor in someone's education. Where they live or how much money they make should never hinder someone from obtaining a quality education. So again, I go back to what I was saying before. We have to do whatever it takes, and if that means funding, religious institutions, whatever, we need to do it.
Okay, we've now reached the final part of the program, which is closing statements from each of the candidates, and a reminder those will be 1 minute each. And we will start with Dr. Jain.
Okay, good. I can do that. Hi. I have been working in medical field for 37 years. I've been a trauma physician at ORMC. I have done anti-aging, and lately I have defended many frivolous claims myself, and I made them drop the claim. And now I'm doing politics only because from my heart I want to help the citizens here what I learned from what happened to me. And this is the reason I'm running. My contribution is non-contribution. My campaign is non-contribution campaign. It needs to come from the heart. Whatever vote I get would be the honest vote without any money from anybody. I feel so proud of myself that I live in America. I proved in the past and I'll prove it again. Bring the frivolous claims to me for my hotel or anything. I'll show you and I'll pass it on to you. How you can defend yourself. Thank you.
Thank you. Olszewski next.
Well, thank you all for being here tonight. It was just an honor to be with you and talk about one of my most favorite places in the whole world, and that's my hometown, District 44. Thank you to Tiger Bay and Business Force for putting this on and giving us this opportunity. Thank you to the viewers watching on Fox 35 and OrlandoSentinel.com. Please, for any more information, please visit my website, votebobbyo.com. And experience counts. I've lived in this community my entire life. There's not 1 inch of this community that I have not walked multiple times. There's not one community that I have not spent considerable amount of time in, working with the community, working with constituents, working with other leaders. I've worked hand in hand with elected officials on both sides of the aisle. I've had the honor of being endorsed by U.S. Congressman Daniel Webster, immediate Florida House Speaker Steve Christofoli, the mayor of Windermere, the entire Windermere Town Council, mayor of Winter Garden, commissioner in the town of Oakland, the majority of the commission in the city of Ocoee. So that shows that this hometown roots makes a difference. And I would be honored for your vote by absentee ballot or on August 15th. And I ask you to vote Bobby O.
Thank you. Bruno Cordelia.
What did you say? Oh, myself? Well, this is a very special and interesting election, and I think we have a very unique opportunity here. We have been given our stances, our positions, and they all seem very similar. But there's one thing that really distinguishes me from the other candidates, and that's the fact that I am not a career politician. I am not a member of the establishment. I am a business owner who has proven leadership and has produced results. So I think what we need to do is look at the record. We need to look at what people have actually done, what results they have produced, what they can show. And when you do that, you'll see that I have the real world business experience that I keep talking about that we so desperately need in Tallahassee, so that we understand the decisions that are making, how the decisions that are being made in Tallahassee affect us here. So we also need someone with the right character and who has not only the intellectual intelligence, but the emotional intelligence as well, to not only get to Tallahassee, but to be effective in Tallahassee, to get along with people and be able to pass legislation. I am that person. Please visit my website if you guys would like any more information. It's electbruno.com, and thank you so much for the opportunity to be here. God bless.
Thank you. Finally, John Newstreet.
Thank you. My name's John Newstreet, and I want your vote on August 15th, if not sooner, and more than once if possible. I'm a veteran, and I am a veteran of the United States Coast Guard, and there is a saying in the Coast Guard and in all the veteran community that says all gave some gave all. And so what they gave was their life for this precious freedom. And so whether it be for me, which I ask, or for one of my opponents up here, vote. It's important. People have given their life. It's what keeps and makes our democracy work. Again, I'm a veteran. I come from a family of 10. If I can get along with my siblings, I can get along in Tallahassee. I have worked in the process. I have the endorsement of every state legislator that, to my knowledge, that has endorsed. I'm a UCF grad. I have executive experience, including at a local chamber of commerce with a regional footprint. I know our problems. I work with people to fix them, and my aim is to give back. We have not talked about transportation much tonight, but I really believe that we need a new street in Tallahassee. Please vote for John Newstreet.
Ladies and gentlemen, elected officials, candidates for office, members of the media, guests in the audience, thank you for attending today's special election candidate debate for the State House District 44, hosted by Business Force and the Tiger Bay Club of Central Florida. Remember, this special election primary will be held on August 15th. I believe absentee ballots drop today. I want to thank you to each of you for your participation. I want to thank both of my counterparts over here for moderating this great debate this evening, for the viewers back at home that are watching this great debate. And I just want to ask the audience to please give a round of applause to each of these candidates. We hope each of you enjoyed this debate, and we look forward to your participation again in the future. I just got a reminder that both the bar is still open, as well as the restaurant. So if anybody would like to have dinner, we've been gracious hosts here by Dubstred. And then also finally, an August meeting notice will come out very soon for Tiger Bay members. So be stay tuned for that. Thank you guys very much, and have a blessed evening.
Brian, pleasure. Thank you so much. Thank you, Robert.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thanks for being here. Oh, yeah.